Your blood type may already be deciding your future, silently shaping your risks, your aging, and the day your body finally breaks. Not long ago, I came across a sentence in a medical journal that stopped me cold. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't written to scare anyone. It was just a quiet observation buried in a paragraph of data. Your blood type may influence how long you live. I remember reading it twice, then a third time, feeling that strange mix of curiosity and unease. Because if that statement is even partially true, it means something inside your body, something you were born with, something you cannot see, has been shaping your future every single day without asking your permission. That idea stayed with me longer than I expected. I started thinking about all the ways we try to control our health. We count calories. We track steps. We worry about cholesterol, blood pressure, sleep. We spend years trying to fix habits on the surface. But what if there are deeper biological patterns quietly running in the background? Patterns written into your immune system from the moment you took your first breath. That's when I realized something that felt both unsettling and strangely empowering. Your blood type is not just a label on a hospital bracelet. It is a biological instruction manual. It helps determine how your body reacts to infections, how easily your blood clots, how your stress hormones behave, and even how your brain may age decades from now. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. More like a slow, invisible current, steady, persistent, shaping outcomes over time. And here's what fascinates me the most as someone who genuinely loves biology. Nature rarely gives us pure advantages. It gives us trade-offs. Strength in one system. Sensitivity in another. Protection in one decade. Vulnerability in the next. So this isn't a lecture. It's a journey I've been taking myself, trying to understand what my own biology might be whispering about my future, and how much of that future I can still change. Because once you see the patterns inside your body, you stop guessing about your health. You start paying attention. And if we're going to understand the patterns written into our biology, the most honest place to start is with the oldest story our blood still carries, Type O. When I first began digging into the science behind Type O, I expected something technical, maybe a list of statistics. What I found instead felt like reading a survival journal from our ancestors. This blood type traces back to some of the earliest humans, people who lived in unpredictable environments where injury, infection, and scarcity were constant threats. Their bodies had to be resilient. They had to keep blood flowing, hearts beating, and wounds from turning fatal. One of the most consistent traits researchers have observed in Type O is lower levels of certain clotting factors. That small biological difference means the blood is less likely to form dangerous clots inside arteries. In today's world, where heart disease and stroke remain leading causes of death, that detail suddenly feels very meaningful. It's almost as if Type O bodies were built with a quiet form of protection, a cardiovascular system that stays open and flexible a little longer than most. But biology, in my experience, never gives us a gift without attaching a condition. As I continued reading, I noticed a recurring theme in clinical studies: the stomach. A bacterium called Helicobacter pylori appears to attach more easily to the stomach lining of people with Type O blood. Over time, that connection can increase the likelihood of ulcers, inflammation, and chronic digestive discomfort. It's not dramatic. It doesn't happen overnight. But it creates a subtle vulnerability that can follow someone for decades if ignored. That balance fascinates me. The same biology that protects the heart may demand extra care for the gut. Strength in one system. Sensitivity in another. So when I think about Type O now, I don't see a good or bad blood type. I see a blueprint with a clear message. Your body may give you endurance, but it expects you to protect your weak points. But the more I studied these biological trade-offs, the more I realized survival doesn't always come from physical strength. Sometimes it comes from staying alert, adapting, and enduring pressure over time. That realization led me to Type A blood group that seems to carry the memory of crowded villages, shared food supplies, and the constant threat of infectious disease. When humans began living closer together thousands of years ago, the rules of survival changed. It was no longer just about hunting or escaping danger. It became about managing exposure to germs, to stress, to uncertainty. And Type A biology appears to have evolved in response to that new world. What struck me most while reading the research was how vigilant the immune system tends to be in people with Type A blood. Their bodies often produce strong, rapid antibody responses, as if they are always prepared for the next invasion. In early human communities, that readiness may have meant the difference between life and death. It allowed populations to survive outbreaks that spread quickly through dense settlements. But vigilance, as I've come to understand, can carry a hidden cost. Type A blood is associated with platelets that are slightly more prone to sticking together. Over time, that tendency can increase the risk of blocked vessels, especially in environments filled with modern stress, long work hours, financial pressure, constant stimulation, and the quiet exhaustion that builds when rest becomes optional. I sometimes think of Type A biology as a system designed to stay on high alert, even when the danger is no longer physical. Then, there is Type B, which tells a completely different story. If Type A represents tension and readiness, Type B feels like movement and adaptation. Historically linked to nomadic populations, this blood type reflects a body trained to handle change, new climates, shifting diets, unpredictable routines. That flexibility shows up in metabolism and immune balance, giving many Type B individuals a remarkable ability to recover and adjust. Yet even flexibility has limits. In a world filled with processed foods and chronic inflammation, the very system built to adapt can become overstimulated, reacting in ways that slowly wear the body down. And that pattern, resilience paired with vulnerability, is something I keep seeing again and again in biology. And just when I thought I understood the pattern, strength balanced by vulnerability, I encountered the blood type that challenged my assumptions the most, Type AB. Type AB is rare, and rarity in biology always makes me curious. It feels like finding a new chapter in a story that was written long after the others. This blood group emerged when populations carrying Type A and Type B traits began to mix, creating something that didn't exist before, a biological hybrid shaped by both vigilance and adaptability. At first glance, that combination sounds like an advantage, and in many ways, it is. What fascinates me about Type AB is how calm the immune system tends to be. It doesn't overreact as easily. It tolerates different antigens with a kind of quiet balance, which may reduce certain inflammatory responses and even lower the risk of some digestive cancers. When I first read those findings, I remember thinking, this sounds like the best of both worlds. Resilience without excess aggression. But biology rarely offers perfection, and the deeper I looked, the more complicated the story became. Several large studies have observed that people with Type AB blood may face a slightly higher risk of cognitive decline later in life. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but gradually, the kind of change that shows up in small ways at first. Slower recall. Fading concentration. A mind that feels just a little less sharp than it once was. Scientists are still working to understand the mechanisms behind this pattern, but many suspect it involves subtle differences in blood flow, clotting behavior, and inflammation around the brain's delicate vessels. That idea stayed with me longer than I expected. Because when we talk about longevity, we often focus on the heart, the lungs, the visible organs that keep us alive. But the brain, the part of us that holds memory, personality, and identity, is what makes life meaningful in the first place. And then, there is one more detail that quietly shapes the picture, something most of us rarely think about until a doctor mentions it, the Rh factor. And once I understood how even a small detail like the Rh factor could quietly influence survival in certain situations, I felt compelled to step back and look at the bigger picture. Because after exploring each blood type, their strengths, their sensitivities, their hidden trade-offs, one question kept returning to my mind. What does all of this actually mean for how long we live? Scientists, of course, are careful with their language. They don't make promises. They don't predict individual outcomes. Instead, they look for patterns across thousands, sometimes millions, of lives. And when those patterns are placed side by side, a general landscape begins to appear. Type O often rises to the top when researchers measure long-term survival, largely because of the way its blood tends to clot less aggressively, helping protect the heart and circulation over time. Close behind, Type B frequently shows strong resilience through middle age, especially when inflammation is kept under control. Type A, with its vigilant immune system, can support long life as well, but only when stress and cardiovascular health are actively managed. And Type AB, the rare hybrid, reminds us that longevity is not only about staying alive, but about preserving memory, clarity, and the ability to think and connect as the years pass. But here's the realization that changed the way I see biology altogether. These rankings are not destiny. They are not verdicts. They are signals, quiet hints about where the body might need more attention, more care, more awareness. I've come to think of blood type the way a pilot thinks about a weather report. It doesn't decide where the plane will land. It simply tells you what conditions you're flying into, and what adjustments you may need to make along the way. Because in the end, the most powerful factor in longevity isn't written in your genes alone. It's written in your daily decisions, the habits you repeat, the stress you carry, the care you give your own body over time. And once you understand that, your biology stops feeling like fate. It starts feeling like responsibility. In the end, what this journey through blood types has taught me is something both humbling and empowering. Your body carries a history older than you, patterns shaped by evolution, environment, and survival. Those patterns may influence your risks, your strengths, and even the way you age. But they do not control your destiny. They simply offer clues. When you understand those clues, you gain awareness. And awareness is where real change begins. Longevity is not a mystery reserved for scientists. It is a daily conversation between your biology and your choices. You don't need to fear your genetics. You need to understand them. Your blood type may highlight where you should be more careful, more intentional, more consistent. That might mean protecting your heart, managing stress, reducing inflammation, or caring for your brain. The practical application is not complicated. Listen to your body, build healthy routines, and make small decisions every day that support your future self. Over time, those small decisions become the difference between merely living longer and living better. Now I'm genuinely curious about you. What is your blood type? And did anything in this video surprise you about your own health risks or strengths? Please share your answer in the comments so we can learn from each other's perspectives. Your experience might help someone else see their health in a new way. And if you found this exploration helpful, consider subscribing to the channel. Your support keeps this journey going and gives us the motivation to keep creating deeper, more meaningful science stories together.